Okay, today you're going to be filling out the Adobe Animate notes and worksheet here. It's going to go over important things you'll need to know about Adobe Animate along with the different tools that there are. So you should see this on your first sheet there. So we're going to go through these and kind of tell you what each one is. So this whole section here is your timeline. This box here is called your stage. This blue line that can be dragged across the timeline is called your playhead. Your layers are right here. All of these are frames. If you make individual ones, they'll have lines in between them. This button here is the Insert Frame button. This here, this little diamond shape, is your keyframe. This button here is the Insert Keyframe. Right up here is where you'll see your frame rate, your frames per second, which should usually be at 24. And here you'll see your current frame. So you can see right now the playhead is on 25, and then you can see here that you're on frame 25. So that's very useful when you if you have to make a frame on these particular frames that don't have the numbers. You can always check here which frame you're on. And this button here is onion skinning. Okay, so the timeline and stage. The timeline in Adobe Animate organizes and controls a document's content over time in layers and frames. The stage here is the rectangular area where you place graphic content when creating Animate documents. The blue playhead at the top of the timeline moves as a document plays to indicate the current frame displayed on the stage. So now we're going to talk about the layers. Layers help you organize your artwork in your Adobe Animate document. You can draw and edit objects on one layer without affecting objects on another layer. In areas of the stage with nothing on a layer, you can see through the layers. So for example, you have the background here on one layer and then the ball on the other layer. If these were both on the same layer, then when you're editing the ball, it might affect the background. And if you need another object moving, you'd want to put that on an additional layer. Frames. Frames are the core of any animation, dictating each segment of time and movement. The total number of frames in your movie and the speed at which they're played back together determine your movie's overall length. A keyframe is a drawing or shot that defines the starting point and ending point. So this here is from an older version of Animate, this screenshot, but it does show these at the end or beginning of the keyframes, and then of course if you add them in the middle, they're going to be the diamonds. And Adobe Animate, a new symbol instance, these here, appear in the timeline. A black dot in the timeline indicates a single frame. Light gray frames after a single keyframe contain the same content with no changes. FPS, or frames per second, this is going to be your frame rate. So the frame rate is the speed at which the animation in Adobe Animate is played. It is measured by the number of frames per second. A frame rate that is too slow makes the animation appear to stutter, stop and start, while a frame rate that is too fast blurs the details of the animation. A frame rate of 24 frames per second is the default setting for new Animate docs. The standard rate for motion pictures is also 24 frames per second. Now I'm not sure about your version of Animate on your computer, it might, I think I had seen somewhere one of them defaults to 30 frames per second, so we'll look at that, but we want to use 24 frames per second. And then onion skinning. Onion skinning is an editing technique used to see several frames of an animation simultaneously. This means the animator can tell whether the lines of each frame are correctly lined up, which is crucial to creating an animation. Now again, this is from an older version of Animate, not kind of what you would see, but you can see here this character, and then the onion skinning will cause you to still be able to see the character and the other frames, but with the opacity dimmed in a different color so that it's not too distracting. So here's another example here. This is the current frame, and these are the frames after it, and these are the frames before it. So it's very helpful when you're doing frame by frame animation. Okay, now we're going to talk about classic tweens. Classic tweens refer to tweening in Flash and earlier. So Adobe Animate used to be called Flash, I don't know how many years ago, but it's now Adobe Animate and is maintained in Animate primarily for transition purposes. The tweens are similar to the newer motion tweens, but are more complicated to create and less flexible. To create a classic tween, set a keyframe for the start point and a keyframe for the end point. Motion tweens. A motion tween are used to create animation movements. Motion tween animation is created by specifying different values for an object property between the first and the last frames. The object properties vary from position, size, color, effects, filters, and rotation. When you create a motion tween, you select any frame in the tween and move that motion symbol on the frame. Unlike classic and shape tweens, Animate automatically builds a motion path, animating the frames between the first frame and the next keyframe. Since you do not use assets in each frame, Motion Tween minimizes the file size and reduces assets in your documents. So this again, Motion Tweens make it very easy to animate. It speeds up the process rather than animating on twos, but in certain situations you do need to animate on twos to show the proper movement. But like for this guy that's maybe skating, it would be fine to use it on something like that. And I'm going to show you, I have this one here open. This one here is a motion tween. Okay, and then, so rather than animating each frame or on twos and having to move the ball over, it kind of does the work for you. When we first start off, we will be doing frame by frame animation because it's important that you understand how to do that, but then we'll go into the tweening and you'll see which you like better. So shape tweens. Shape tweens can tween the position, size, rotation, and shapes. It can also tween the color of instances and text to create animated color shifts or fade in or out of transparency. So the shape tween, you can start off with a star shape and then make it go into a circle shape, and while it's tweening, it will slowly but surely turn into like a circle star until it gets to the circle. And then same thing with the colors. If you're going from yellow to red, it's going to blend in the middle to make orange. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so these are the tweens on the timeline. You have your shape tween, which is this orange one. And I know on your paper you can't see the color, but just kind of write orange or color it in orange so you know that's the orange one. Purple is going to be your classic tween, and then yellow is going to be your motion tween. So sometimes if you're messing with tweens and you realize, hey, that's not the right color, then you probably have the wrong tween on. Okay, now for the tools. Let's section. So you're going to open Adobe Animate. To do that, you can go to the Start menu and open up Adobe Animate. And again, you're just going to right click on the tools and you'll start filling them out. There is a word bank, so I do recommend once you write in a word to mark it off, just so that you kind of know what you've already used and what you haven't used. So they should all be here. Some of them are just single tools. Okay, so you'll just right click on these that have more than one. Once you get down to the bottom, you'll need to click on more tools, and then you can find additional tools. The only thing is if they have more tools built in, you'll need to click and drag it into your toolbar. And I would just kind of start doing that for each of them just to make sure that they don't have anything hidden inside of them. If there's a tool that you're not sure of or you can't find, you can try Googling Adobe Animate tools. As long as you fill out everything, I don't care how you find the answer. Okay, it's important that you know what these tools are for the class. When you are finished with that, and preferably just, even if you're not finished, turn it in, because a lot of you didn't turn in the Illustrator tools for whatever reason. This is going to be a grade, so it should be an easy grade, so please make sure you turn it in. Even if it's not finished, turn it in so that it doesn't get lost, unless you're really good at keeping up with things. Okay, y'all have a great day.